This is my story about my experience with throat cancer. I thought long and hard about this, about how to accurately encapsulate what happened to me or what I went through, and it's virtually impossible. Every time I thought about it, there's so many aspects to it, but I'm going to try to do it in just a few minutes. In the early morning or early year of 2018, I noticed a little scratch in my throat, but it wasn't much. And when I went to the doctor in March about something else, at the end he said, anything else? I said, well, I have just a little sore throat once in a while, but very mild. Probably, allergy or something. And he took a look, and he said, well, take some Allerest, and if it's not better in 3 weeks, come back and see me. Because another one of my patients had that, and he had throat cancer, and he's not doing too well. I went, whoa, that got my attention. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, my wife and I were going on vacation, and we were in Hawaii for a better part of a month. And by the time I came back, and by the time I got an appointment and saw my doctor again, he looked in my throat and he immediately said, here's a referral for a head and neck specialist. Let me at this point say I used to draw a lot just for fun, and when I started this journey, I was pretty optimistic about going through it, and I wanted to capture it in my drawing. So I started out drawing, but I quickly lost enthusiasm for that. So if you've seen an abrupt ending to my drawings, you'll know why. Anyway, I went to this specialist, and it was a girl, and she poked a scope, a camera down my nose into my throat, and she poked around, and she said she would talk to her superior and get back to me. A couple of days later, she called me and said, I'm sorry to tell you, but there appears to be some cancer in your throat. So I was bummed, but I also thought that, they can fix anything these days. So I went to my specialist just after the 4th of July. It was the 5th of July. And he did the same examination. And he told me about it. It was one of my tonsils, and it needed to be dealt with. He said it was from the HPV virus, which is very common. And then he said the most important words that I probably ever heard. He said, we can fix this. And that, of course, gave me great hope. After that, I went in for testing. I went in for MRI and for a CAT scan. And they could see where everything was. At this point, it was stage 3 or 4. They never definitively said, but it had spread to 2 of my lymph nodes on both sides of my head, so it was probably 4. So I did all the preparation work. I went in and had a mask made for my face. So when it gives you the radiation treatment, they can strap you down so your head is always in the same spot. That was a little daunting. I also had my teeth x-rayed. because if there were some bad teeth, they want to pull them before you go into your treatment, and that was daunting. A lot of things were high stress. Anyway, on August 6th, I started my treatment. And on that day, I had chemotherapy. It was a Monday. And I also started my radiation. The radiation was to be 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And the chemo was also for 6 weeks. The chemo wasn't too bad. Because of my history with some other medical issues, I had a lesser dose of chemo. And I credit that with not having the vomiting and the extreme nauseous feelings. So I got through that pretty well. The radiation, though, was something else. And they told me, well, let's put it this way. Before I started the treatment, in that month between the diagnosis and my treatment starting, I did what we all do. I went to Dr. Google and Dr. YouTube and tried to learn as much as I could about the experience. And there were dozens, probably hundreds of people that were posting on there. Two that I linked onto was, first one was Tim Crestinger. He lived in Cedar City, had a record store. And Tim was just like a normal guy, like a friend you would have. And he posted every week after his treatment and gave us an update. And he was easy to listen to and very, very human. I enjoyed following him. I also linked up with a guy named Jeff Johnson out of Texas. And he was very thorough, very articulate, very detailed. And he was ending his treatment just as I was beginning mine. He had one about every week and continues now to keep people updated. But with both of these guys, you could see how their spirits waned after a few treatments. And even their look, they got more thin and gaunt, and you could see the toll it was taking on both of them. There were so many stories that good ones, bad ones. I eventually decided I'm just going to do this on my own, have my own story, and not read myself into someone else's story. What really made that happen was that Tim ended his treatment about 2 years before I started, and so I found out where he worked in Cedar City, and I called up and asked if I could talk to him. His wife answered the phone and said that he had passed. That's when I decided I'm just going to do this on my own and not be influenced by others' experience. And so I began my treatment. And this is the part that's hard to describe because it was tiring, at times exhausting, painful. It was very, very tough. So it's hard to describe in a few moments. But I went in every day for radiation, 5 days a week, and once a week for chemo. My wife was there every day, every day. After a while, she had to drive me, only after a couple of weeks. But she was there for me every day, and that was a huge strength. I was blessed to have a new Kaiser facility just within a few miles of my home with state-of-the-art equipment. So, beautiful building, beautiful facility, and a wonderful radiation lab. And really super people. But it got very hard, very painful. At the beginning, some people told me I would need a feeding tube because I couldn't swallow. And I thought, no, I won't need it. No, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Within 2 weeks, I went down and gladly got a feeding tube. And 4 or 5 times a day, my wife would fill a canister with liquid food, nutrition, and pump it into my stomach. It wasn't fun, and it went on for a long time, even after my treatment. But during the treatment, I had a lot of supporters. I had a lot of supporters, family, friends, that were all there for me, praying for me, wishing me well, and I really thought for the best. And truly, that meant so much to me, and it gave me so much moral support that it was very much appreciated. But I went through all this time, and toward my last week of chemo, I remember going in one day, and the girl said, I told her how down I was, and she said, well, you're not thinking about quitting, are you? And I said, no. I said, do people quit? She says, oh yeah. It gets too hard, they just quit. I thought, boy, I don't want to do that. So I kept going. But my wife was there every day, and she met some people as she sat in the lobby waiting for me. One was a woman who was a mail carrier, and she had the same problem, worse than I did. And then she met a young girl, I met her too, her name was Amy Perry. And she was very nice. And she had had brain cancer for 15 years, had several radiation sessions, and surgeries and so forth. Coincidentally, her father, I didn't know him, but he went to school the same time I did. And he was just a couple of pages away from me on my yearbook. And we were there when Amy came out and rang the bell, signifying the end of her treatment. As we all know, with cancer, the story always doesn't have a happy ending. Less than 1 year after Amy rang this bell, she lost her long battle with cancer. Finally, my final day of radiation came, and I was able to ring the bell. Well, I ended my treatment September 24th, 2018. And unfortunately, I was on a strong painkiller. And that painkiller, when the pharmacist gave it to my wife for me, the pharmacist said, "It's very strong." I said it several times, "It's very strong." I didn't know what that meant, but I had to take it. I had to do something. I felt like I had glass in my throat. So after 2 months after my treatment, I was starting to wean myself off of the painkiller. And unfortunately, 2 days after my 69th birthday, on November 20th, I had a stroke. So it was one thing to another. I'm still not recovered from a stroke. It's been 4 years now. And I go in, I was seeing my radiation doctor and my oncologist off, back and forth every 3 months. And they put the scope down my nose and checked me out and said I'm fine. And there's all sorts of side effects from the radiation, and one of them is a dry mouth. And I get a dry mouth, and it affects my tongue, and it affects my speaking. And it comes and goes. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. You're kind of getting my in-between. And there's been a lot of times I've been down and really unhappy about my lot in life. But if you listen to Jeff Johnson, the fellow in Texas, he talks about his side effects, and he has had more side effects than I can imagine. So I feel lucky. I feel lucky that I'm alive and I've survived. I feel grateful that I'm here, and I'm happy that I got through it, and my cancer seems to be arrested. Although every day when I have a little strain or a little scratch, I always worry. I may have limitations. I may have things that I can't do as well. One doctor told me that radiation is a gift that keeps on giving. It can change things in your body years after you've had it. And I have stories about that, and I'm sure Jeff Johnson does. But I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. But there's the tragic story about Tim in Cedar City, and about Amy, and about so many others that are not around to tell that story and have that problem. So I consider myself one of the lucky ones, one of the fortunate ones. I'm grateful that I'm here to tell my story. I hope that my story can inspire you, that we all have challenges in our life that we can't overcome, that we need to face head on with bravery and with determination. And we have to be grateful that we live in a day and age when they have so many facilities and machines that and technology that can do the things that it can do and help so many people. And I'm one of those fortunate people that benefited by the day and age that we live in. So face your challenges with a brave heart, with a crossed fingers, and with a prayer. My hope that you don't have to go through what I went through, but if you do, I know you can make it.